Everybody, it is Thursday, it is MFSN, and it is August. And what August means is it's time for fantasy football. It's the unofficial start of the fantasy football draft season for me. I'm your host, Casey Scheinbold. I'm here with, as always, with the one and only Ross the Boss. How you doing, Ross?
I am excited. Tonight we have live from the Hall of Fame game your New York Jets versus the Cleveland Browns. It's going to be a barn burner. I'm excited. It's going to be great. You won't see any of the starters playing, but it is football, Casey Scheinfold.
Oh, it's great.
Which means it's going to be fun and exciting, and you'll see a lot of players that you've never heard of playing.
Yeah, and you'll see some of those guys who maybe in a couple of years will mean something, but they're mostly going to be special teamers, most likely. So, Ross, we've been focused on baseball up until now, but when I say we, I mean MFSN, but you've been doing football stuff on MFSN YouTube Shorts for a while now. You've been giving some tips and tricks. So you've been in the football mode a lot longer than the rest of us have. So what are the important things, I guess, we'll start as basic as it can, when it comes to preparing for your NFL fantasy football draft?
Well, the most important thing you got to prepare for is where you draft, like what order. If the first pick, I think it's an easy one. It's Justin Jefferson. I don't think there's any thought process at all. He's the top receiver in the NFL. He'll get 12 to 15 targets each game. I mean, he's unbelievable. But I mean, what you're looking for is this: you're looking to put a team together that's going to be dominant in every position. I mean, that's what you really want as a fantasy manager and an owner, obviously. You want to have every position get you points, just not running back, just not receiver, just not quarterback. So that's the hardest task at all, because you got to do that, in a draft in which everybody else is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, it is a kind of a chess match in that way. And I think obviously trying to put the best team forward. I know you're a big proponent of take the most talent at every position, at every draft spot, regardless of position for the most part, and then you can deal with the rest later. But I think something that's even more elementary and often overlooked is study the type of league you're going to be in.
We talk about that too.
Setup, the positions. Yeah. If you're in a super flex league versus a normal flex league, if you're in as opposed to a one quarterback league, or if you're in a PPR full point versus half point, the scoring can change the value of certain players by rounds of draft capital or draft position. And so I think one of the things and it sounds stupid to remind people, but it's true. Like, make sure you know the scoring of the league. You're notorious when you set up our leagues for setting up ridiculous scoring profiles or scoring things that if I don't pay attention to, I always look at it and I'm like, wait, I have a good team. Why am I not performing that well? And it's because I didn't pay attention to certain
things. You don't pay attention. And you're 100% right. I mean, you got to know when you sign up for a league, you got to know what the scoring is before you even get into it. I mean, I join leagues with no kickers, with no defense, with no tight ends, with 5 flex. I mean, it's crazy stuff you can do. I mean, people just get bored and they want to try new things, which I do in an MFSN league. I mix it up. I made it so you can draft a tight end, but there's no tight end position, so you can start them at flex if you want. Yeah. You can have no kickers. You can have 2 quarterbacks. You can have so many options. You're 100% right. I mean, the most important thing when you join a league is to know the ground rules, know how many quarterbacks you can start, know what the point system is, know if, are there points for each touchdown? I mean, is there points for each first down caught? Is there points for the longer the kick, the more points you get? I mean, you got to know all this stuff. And you're right. I mean, people put their head in the sand and still think it's 1995 and still think the scoring system's the same when you were in high school. It's not. And they're getting more creative every year with Yahoo and Sleeper and all these, the ESPN, all these leagues are doing these weird. You can do some weird stuff in these leagues, and it makes it fun. I mean, I think it makes it less boring sometimes, and it makes you think it makes you think. And I even like the defensive players. You get points for tackles, you get points for receptions, you get points for this, that. for sacks. And, I enjoy all that stuff.
Do you like fantasy leagues where you can draft individual defensive players, or where you draft the defense?
A little both. I mean, when you do individual players, it's a lot more time consuming. I think you and I both been there. You're looking at how many tackles the person had last year, interceptions, sacks. So it's a lot more time consuming, but it's kind of fun to do once in a while. You get to learn the defensive side of the NFL. Players' names instead of just defenses. So all that, I mean, it's just like it just makes your time spent on fantasy football a lot more.
So let's assume we're doing standard 12-team leagues here. Where do you prefer to be in the draft order on a standard? Do you like to be somewhere in the middle, at the very beginning, the very end? What do you like?
Well, this year, I've done some best ball. If you don't know what best ball is, it's basically, you can do it in Yahoo. You can do it for free, $1, $5, $10, $20. So basically there's 12 teams and you draft and you're stuck with that team. There's no trading. There's nothing to do. You just sit there with that team the whole year.
Is there no bench either in that?
There's a bench. There's a big bench because players get hurt. So you can draft like 3 quarterbacks. You only start one. You can draft a bunch of receivers or running backs. There's no kicker. There's no defense. There are tight ends, but it's fun. I mean, Casey should go on and play you can do it for free once if you want to do it, $1 if you want to do it. But it's fun. It's just you draft and it's no more. I mean, you don't start anything. It gives you the highest points possible for each position, and there you go. So if you want to, so I've been doing that. That's why I talked about best ball. I feel this year, I think I'd rather draft at the end. I'd rather have those 2 picks, the 10 and 11th pick, than the first and the 20th pick, if that makes sense to you. I mean, it's this year. I think there's a lot of great players out there at different positions, and I'd rather scoop up 2 of them at a time later in the draft. Especially if it's not a super flex league, because super flex leagues, you do got to take quarterbacks early. I mean, that's the rule of super flex. I mean, you're drafting Mahomes and Burrow and Hurts and all these guys early in the first round compared to like a regular draft where you don't. So yes. So if I had my choice, like you said, I'd rather pick late.
Yeah. I mean, I'd always rather be on one of the bookends than in the middle. I hate making one pick and then having to wait 12 or 13 picks for it to make it back to you. I'd rather get both out of the way. Uncle Ted, it's nice to see you on a football show. He comes with ideas. Look at that. Roschon Johnson, Tank Bigsby, and Kendre Miller. He's looking at running backs already. And he's looking at the ones who most people don't consider RB1s that have a lot of upside. So
those guys are all probably, half those guys won't be drafted. I do like Kenneth Walker III in Seattle. They do run the bar a lot. I think that's a good one. And I do like some of his running backs ideas, but the other names he mentioned, Bigsby and people like that, probably won't be drafted in.
Bigsby could be the touchdown vulture in Jacksonville,
right? But he probably won't be. He wasn't drafted in any of my leagues.
Yeah. And then Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller is New Orleans, right? He's the one who's That's is Kendre Miller New Orleans or Tennessee? I'm blanking. Hold on.
So Jamal Williams is the backup in New Orleans.
Kendre Miller is New Orleans.
Yeah, so I was going to say Kendra is behind Williams, I believe. But remember, Kamara's
going to be suspended. So there's
I think at least 4 games. At least 4 games, I think.
And he said Roschon Johnson has a clear path to RB1 in Chicago. Yeah, I don't think Khalil Herbert is the scariest RB1 in his way. But with running backs, for me, I always worry about just health. I mean, you look at them already, and you got Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet in Seattle, both dealing with injuries and not practicing. The littlest tweak, and you miss 6 weeks. I
mean, if you want a dark horse, if you want a guy to draft late, and let me just tell you something in Pittsburgh, Najee Harris has shown nothing. I mean, he's been a disappointment.
So Jaylen Warren, is that who you're going with?
Jaylen Warren, they signed him up. And they let go of all their running backs except Jaylen Warren. I think it's going to be Jaylen Warren's job by week 3 or 4. I really do.
Certainly possible, but Najee's numbers aren't terrible. Their offensive line was terrible. That
Well,
didn't
this
help.
yards
And
per
Kenny
carry
Pickett
is
didn't play.
yards per carry is awful, Casey.
Yeah, but when you look at point of first contact, like he's getting hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage almost every time.
Oh, I know his offensive line is. I'm just telling you, these are just dark horses. I think.
Yeah, I know.
And another guy that I love that last year averaged 6 yards a carry. That now he does have a little competition, but he'll get the bulk of the carries. And they said it yesterday in the press conference. Is James Cook in Buffalo? I think James Cook, will see him have a huge year. And I know Harris is there from New England. I know they signed him to a contract, but I still think Cook's going to get the majority of the carries. And again, he averaged 6 yards a carry last year. That's unbelievable and he's getting drafted in the 7th, 8th round, James Cook.
Yeah.
So I'm after the guys that, any idiot can draft in the 1st and 2nd round. I mean, that's easy. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to
What do they
draft.
say? You can't win you can't win with those first
No.
2 picks, but you can lose. So
No, exactly. And again, we say it every year, and we remind you, Casey, draft wide receivers early. They'll win you the league, because by week 8 or 9, you'll be saying, Ross, why did I draft this running back? He's not getting me any points. I drafted him in the 2nd round. I should have took a receiver. We say that every year in this year. I'm reminding you to take wide receivers, especially top tier guys, early.
Uncle Ted says pass on all cooks. They're cooked. You know who's a running back who I think people are overlooking? A, he plays on a terrible team, and B, he's been hurt. But over the last 2 seasons, there are only 4 running backs to have at least 300 receiving yards and at least 7 rushing touchdowns. Can you name them?
No, I can't name them, no.
3 of them are pretty common. Austin Eckler, obviously. Josh Jacobs, last year, he probably made enough of it for 3 years of average. And Joe Mixon. But the 4th is James Conner. People don't think about him in Arizona, but
I drafted him in many of my best ball leagues.
He's crazy efficient.
He's healthy, and he has no competition in Arizona at all. He has nobody. So he'll be getting majority of the carries. The only thing that worries me about Conner, and I love him, I'll draft him. I'll draft him 5th, 6th round. I mean, I feel great about him, even though Arizona is a horrible team, and I agree with you. Is this health? He was hurt last year. He was hurt the year before, and he goes down for like 3 or 4 weeks, and he comes back. But if he could stay healthy, I think he could be in the top 10 running backs for sure. I think that's a good one.
Yeah. Who do you let's go through some. I mean, you had said that wide receivers, certainly in today's NFL, right, with the pass happy league that it is, wide receivers carry the most value unless you're a mobile quarterback, or unless you're in a super flex league, which means you have 2 quarterbacks that you have to play.
Right.
So everybody knows Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now I assume most people know in Detroit, CeeDee Lamb, and Cooper Kupp.
AJ Brown.
Cooper Kupp may miss the start of the season, I saw today, because of a hamstring injury.
I heard that it's not as bad as we're saying, but I think we'll see. But I mean, if he's healthy, he's a huge weapon. I mean, again, he gets between 10 and 15 targets a game and scores a touchdown almost every game he plays. I mean, he's that good.
I know. If you look at his numbers for when he plays.
But again, he just turned 32. He just turned 30. So that's the magic. It's like Logan's Run. When you turn 30 in the NFL football,
Logan's Run. Great movie reference there. Okay, so you said the middle rounds is where you make the money, right? The middle rounds picks probably the 6th to the 9th round, the 5th to the 10th round, somewhere in that range. Who are some wide receivers that you would be looking for outside of those top 10 to 15 wide receivers that you think could be difference makers in the league?
I mean, somebody that did not score a touchdown last year, but he was like the leading catcher for the Pittsburgh Steelers, is Deion Johnson. I mean, I still think he's the number 1 receiver in Pittsburgh. I think he'll score touchdowns this year, and he's going way, way late in the draft.
Yeah.
And I think he's somebody that you should really keep an eye on if you can draft him late. And if it's a three receiver league and get him as your 3rd receiver, I think that's a great deal. Another guy, his whole career, Casey, he's had over 1,000 yards. He's never missed one season without 1,000 yards every season. And he always has 70 touchdowns. I know he is Baker Mayfield as his quarterback. I know, Baker's not a bad quarterback, okay? But yeah. Mike Evans of Tampa Bay, again, he's dropping like a rock in these drafts, and people are not drafting him. And remember, every season 1,000 yards since he was a rookie.
I know it's a worry with quarterback play, and he's how old? Isn't he hitting 30, or didn't he just hit 30?
I think he's close to Logan's run. You're right. I'm not gonna.
All right, so we have a question from Sports Spotlight. Hi guys, I was wondering who you would take at pick 5 in a 10-man PPR league. Also, depending on who you would take, your second and third rounds look like.
So 5th pick, people ask me this question. I would take my 5th pick. I just did a short for it actually. Travis Kelce, the leading receiver in Kansas City, would be my 5th pick, just because if you have him on your team, it's such an advantage over everybody else. It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other tight end that comes close to him. Mark Andrews doesn't come close. Fairmouth I like in the late rounds. That's another one that I think is going to have a big season. I like Fairmouth for Pittsburgh. Fairmouth. I love that guy. I like Travis Kelce as my 5th pick if you can get it. That's me. And then what's the other? Would you take? And you would
pick if you're doing the 5th pick of each round, it'd be, and it's 10-man league. So pick 15, pick 25.
At pick 15, if you can get Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb's going to be the leading running back for all of them in fantasy football. I think he's going to have a huge year. No Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's gone. So Nick Chubb's going to get the majority of the carries, and he'll get touchdowns. Yeah. And Cleveland's going to run. They're going to run the ball.
I agree with you, Kelce, if he's there. I'm not even sure he'd be available at the 5th pick in a PPR.
Really?
In a 10-man PPR league? Like, he's that much better at tight end than
Kelce
else.
Kelce or Eckler. Those are my two I would take.
I would say either Kelce and then either Eckler or Tyreek Hill might be there. He's another good pick there.
Tyreek Hill, you know what he predicted? This season, I'm going to have 2,000 yards receiving, and my team's going to the Super Bowl. That's what he predicted.
Now, if I took Eckler or Kelce, if I got them at 5, I'd certainly be looking wide receiver in a PPR at my 2nd and 3rd. So I'd be looking somewhere like Garrett Wilson in that 2nd round.
He's a Jet.
I know, but it's Aaron Rodgers, so it's better.
I know, but it's just that team is cursed. I would stay away from all Jets. That's me.
If you don't take Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle will likely be there around that same time.
Do the impression for me real quick of Waddle when he scores a touchdown, please.
His touchdown Waddle, sure. Chris Olave, if you like him better in New Orleans, but
I looked at New Orleans' schedule. I don't know if you looked at this, but their schedule is a joke. I mean, they're playing like horrible teams. The toughest team they play is Jacksonville. Everybody else is like a. I mean, look at their schedule. If you go to Vegas and you can bet like futures on New Orleans wins, bet it, guarantee.
Spotlight thinks it'll go JJ, then Chase, then C-Mac as the first 3 picks, and that
stay away from McCaffrey. He's an injury-prone guy. He's going to destroy you in the 1st round. Don't take him. Don't take McCaffrey.
The 4th pick will either be either a Travis Kelce, or with Cooper Kupp being injured, you might be able to sneak Cooper Kupp there with the 5th pick if you wanted. If you think
no, don't take. I'm worried about Kupp. I'm worried about him.
But I would look either Kelce, Hill in that 1st pick.
In the 2nd round, if you could get Chubb. 3rd round, he's been there. He's been there in drafts I've been in. Is Higgins? Higgins has been available.
Well, is that when you pull the trigger on Patrick Mahomes?
I would wait on quarterback till the 5th or 6th if you can. I think some guys like Trevor Lawrence. I think some guys will be there like Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
and even if I got Kirk Cousins as my quarterback, I would be fine. I'm just telling you right now. If I can draft a bunch of studs and wait on quarterback and pick up either like Cousins or
I think even Daniel Jones could get you some.
Daniel Jones. I mean, some of these guys are going to have really good years. I mean, I just think Trevor Lawrence has increased. His receivers have improved.
Uncle Ted doesn't like Trevor Lawrence. We got the Trevor Lawrence yuck. I disagree with you there, Uncle Ted. I think he's one of the guys who's more poised. He's got all the same weapons back. And added Calvin Ridley. So
there you go.
It could be pretty special there. He likes Dak and Tua. I'm not a big fan of Tua this year. I'm an Alabama guy, and I own him in one of our dynasty leagues. But those concussions, He missed like 6 or 7 games. He's
taking Taekwondo though. He's learning how to take a hit.
Right. And Dak could be great, but Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator who kind of made him a top 5 quarterback for fantasy purposes, went to San Diego. So now Justin Herbert might be the biggest jump in fantasy value from last year to this year as a quarterback. I don't know how aggressive they're going to be. So,
well, I'm a Cowboy hater, so I would never draft Dak Prescott. I think he's one of the most overrated quarterbacks, most overpaid quarterback in the NFL right now. And he even said before the season, I'm not going to throw more than 10 interceptions this year. That's a joke. He'll have 10 interceptions by week 8. Listen, the receivers for Dallas are not that good. They have one stud. They have Lamb, and that's it. The other ones, Cooks, and all those other guys are just average guys. And he lost his tight end too. I mean, they he's gone. So good luck, Dak Prescott. No Zeke either. Bye-bye.
Here's another question for you from Sports Spotlight. Someone in my league wants to give me their 7th pick for my 3rd, 4th, and 6th. Is that a good deal? If you're saying that doesn't make sense to me, because the way it's written, you would be giving them 3 better picks for their 7th. Do you mean the 7th?
No. What he's saying is this case, the 7th overall pick for the 3rd pick in the 3rd round, for the 3rd round, 4th round, and 6th round pick. I would not do that. That's giving away. It's giving the farm.
You're giving away too much. Although, I mean, it would be tempting to have the 5th overall pick and the 7th overall pick. Because
but then like in the 3rd round, you're getting 0.
You're getting nothing.
In the 4th round, you're getting 0.
I mean, you're getting
0.
You might get, Travis Kelce and Austin Eckler to build as the base of your team. But then when it comes to the money picks and particularly the 3rd and 4th rounds, you're getting hosed. So I would probably not do it. If they just wanted either the 3rd or 4th rounder and the 6th rounder, I might consider it, because you're only giving up 1 pick, but that is
too much. Again, you're not going to win your league in the first 2 rounds. You're winning your league between the 4th and 8th round. That's when you win your league. And it's a proven fact. I mean, I've been in fantasy football a long time, and I can tell you how the majority of the first round, I can tell you how it goes. I can tell you exactly who picks who, where they go. In the 2nd round, I'm pretty good also. But after the 2nd round, it's a free-for-all. I mean, it really is.
Yeah. So last year, somebody who we mentioned Trevor Lawrence, we mentioned Calvin Ridley, but somebody who's dropped precipitously in the rankings because of Ridley's arrival is Christian Kirk.
I saw that.
And he's dropped to almost wide receiver 30 in some people's rankings. But last year, 1,100 yards receiving, 8 touchdowns, 84 receptions. He played in the slot. Calvin Ridley doesn't take away.
You're 100% right.
His routes. He might eat into some of his targets, but he might also just be more open and have more room to run. And Doug Peterson runs a quarterback-friendly system. So I think he's kind of a sleeper who people don't.
I like Christian Kirk, Texas A&M product. Also, I like Christian Kirk. I saw him play in college a few times live. This guy's a monster. It's just, I agree with you. I think that Calvin Ridley's going to be double teamed. I think Kirk will get the ball even more this year than last year. How about that, Casey Scheinfeld?
There you go. I like it. Uncle Ted thinks DK Metcalf and Deebo Samuel are very undervalued right now based on their ADP.
Samuel had a really off year last year. I mean, he was
right, and that's why his value is down.
I mean, he was not getting the ball. I mean, there's a big 2 years ago he was rushing, he was doing everything. Well, this year he was not. I mean, last year he was not. And Metcalf, I don't know. I mean, he was just, his targets went down last year. They were not targeting him as much because of Lockett. And now Seattle has that stud receiver from Ohio State, Smith, and I can't see his middle name.
Jackson Smith Njigba.
I can't. Okay, Njigba, thank you. But so they improved dramatically with their receiving core.
Right. My concern with both of those receivers is Metcalf now has Lockett and Smith Njigba to be a target. Do you think Geno Smith is going to be as effective, or is he going to be who he was every year before? So it's a question mark. I'm not denying DK Metcalf's talent and physical tools, but with Deebo, I mean, look, you got CMC who catches the ball, George Kittle who, when he's healthy, is a dynamic tight end, the closest to being a true
when he's
tight end
healthy.
one.
I mean, every year this guy's in the press box watching
and
the
your
game.
Arizona State boy, Brandon Ayuk, is turning into
Ayuk.
pretty much of a stud as a wide receiver. That's a lot of mouths to feed there. And so I worry.
And you know what?
Debo did it all 2 years ago because they didn't have CMC. They didn't have somebody in the backfield who could catch and run out of the backfield. If you remember,
they announced that Brock's going to be their starting quarterback. They announced it. So Trey Lance will be sitting the bench. I don't have much. I don't know I think Brock was just a magician last year and he just didn't get in trouble. I think they just played it safe with him. I don't see him having the same results this year. I don't see that Iowa State quarterback doing great this year like he did last year, but I could be wrong. But I do like his name. Brock Purdy's a great quarterback name. Unbelievable.
Uncle Ted thinks Trey Lance is going to take that job. We'll see. If Brock Purdy struggles, I don't think he's going to have a very long leash because they have Trey Lance on the bench. And so if he does come out of the gate slow, I think the team as a whole could underperform. Who knows? You know, they lost, was it their starting right tackle? They lost somebody big on the offensive line that's going to cause some growing pains for them there. But
they're pretty deep in defense. The Niners are
going to be good. I mean,
the Niners are definitely one of the favorites in the NFC. I got to admit. They're
I mean,
very good team.
Is there another team in the NFC West that you think could really challenge them?
In the West? No.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle, I guess, would be the closest.
I mean, the Lambs. I mean, no. I think.
I mean, the Cardinals are going to be battling for that number one pick. They're trying to get Caleb Williams, I think. And then
they already gave up on Kyrie Murray. He's already gave up on him.
Yeah, well, he's out for the first few weeks anyway. So
I know, but I mean, all of a sudden they're positioning to get the number one pick.
Where do you in a standard non-super flex league, where do you start looking at quarterbacks?
So it just depends who's available. I would go in the third round if one of the top tier guys let me just remind you who the top tier guys are. I'm going to say Mahomes. I'm going to say Burrow. I know you don't agree with me, but I'm going to say
I like
Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Okay. Top tier. I'm saying top tier. These are top tier guys. I have Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And have Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
As my top 4 tier guys. These are the top 4 tier guys. If one of these guys are available in the third round, let's say middle or late, I would probably draft one of them. I think you need a top tier guy to win your league in fantasy football. I really do. You take a chance and go after, as I said, Cousins or Tua or one of those guys.
Well,
but I really like having one of those top tier guys.
Yeah, those 4 are the most, I would say, reliable. I would put in that tier maybe between tiers 1 and 2. I think Lamar Jackson and I think Deshaun Watson could be ones that the value. Well, I think Cleveland's offense is going to be legit. And let's not forget what he was able to do with Houston's offense 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, but it's the Cleveland Browns. I mean, just look at their past performance. Horrible. Watson looked
they were in the
horrible.
AFC Championship a few years ago.
That was long time. That was on AFC. That was a long time ago.
No,
but with Brian Sipe and Bernie,
no, Baker Mayfield.
Oh, okay, Baker Mayfield. Okay, got it. But what I'm saying is this: I just don't have any faith in Watson. I wouldn't want to draft a team and have them as my starting quarterback every week. I don't think you're going to win.
Okay, I think
too many massages, too many.
I think Trevor Lawrence could be the one that jumps into that tier.
I love Trevor Lawrence. I think he's
by the end of the
year away. I think he's a year away, but he's tier 2. I'm not.
I think the third round is a little early to swing for a quarterback. I would look in the 4th round if one of them are available, but pretty much I'm looking 5 and 6 to get, because I don't think, unless it's if it's a super flex league.
Your first round, baby. Your first round.
The super flex means one of your flex positions can be a quarterback. So it's a 2 quarterback league. That means the first 4 picks of the draft are going to be quarterbacks. It's going to be the 4 you mentioned: Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and
Hurts. Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. And then Justin Herbert, if he does return to form, and if Kellen Moore can unleash,
just signed a big contract too. I mean, he signed like a $200 million deal.
I think Quentin Johnston's going to be something special for them too. So And Austin Eckler is one of the best receiving.
Eckler's a
running
B. I
backs.
mean, again, top 5 fantasy pick overall. I want to ask you a question about, listen, he hasn't started many games in college, and he was drafted pretty high in the draft. And he's a physique wise, he's Adonis. Is Anthony Richardson of the Colts?
He has the potential.
What do you do?
He has the potential to be the most dominant fantasy football player ever. He could be kind of the Shohei Ohtani of fantasy.
More than Michael Vick?
Yes. Because
that's a big statement, Casey Scheinfeld.
I do believe that, because he's built like
he's
built like Cam Newton, but can run like Michael Vick. So Michael Vick's issue, Michael Vick was, I was in Philly. I lived in Philly when he played for the Eagles for those couple of years. His years in Atlanta were as dynamic as I've ever seen. Like, he was like trying to catch smoke, but if you could hit him, you could hurt him. Like, Anthony Richardson doesn't look like he could get hurt, but he's just as fast. And so would I trust him this year? No, I'm not. But if I'm in a dynasty league and it's a super flex dynasty, I might even spend one of my first 2 picks on him just to take that chance.
So you think Gardner Minshew is going to win that job, you're saying?
I think Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter for the first few weeks, and depending how they go, Anthony Richardson has to show me he can play quarterback in the NFL, not play football in the NFL, right? Like,
I agree. He's like the question mark.
The truth is, he might not be a great quarterback, but he could still be a fantasy stud, because if his first reflex is to tuck the ball and run, and he's such a good runner that he ends up with 800 yards receiving and 10 rushing touchdowns, but also throws in another 10 passing touchdowns, like, there you go. That's a top fantasy producer. So
I call him an X factor. That's what I call these guys.
I call them unicorns.
Unicorns. Another one that had a great year last year, and he'll probably have a better year this year, is Justin Fields of Chicago. He had games last year where he rushed more than he threw. He was like a monster with the rushing, and he's not afraid to get hit. And Chicago improved their team tremendously in the receiving department. And their offensive line's a top 10 offensive line. They're really good. I have Justin Fields as a tier 2 guy.
Yeah.
Just because of the rushing, just because of his whole rushing component.
Last year, Justin Fields set the NFL record for single season games with at least 80 rushing yards, a rushing touchdown, and a passing touchdown.
Wow.
In his last 8 games, he actually threw the ball well. In 6 of his final 9 games, he had 20 plus fantasy points. So, like, did he turn a corner? It might be worth the investment to find out. If you can get him in round 5 or 6, that's top 5 quarterback stuff. Then you're not trying to, then when everybody else is drafting the Patrick Mahomes, those guys, the top running back, the top quarterbacks, you suddenly can get one of those really good, like, who would I consider around that spot that would be really good in the 40s or 50s? You can get a DJ Moore, a Jahmyr Gibbs, Drake London.
Let's go back to Jahmyr Gibbs. They drafted him in Detroit and they got rid of Jamal Williams. They also signed Montgomery from Chicago. I think Montgomery is going to get a lot of the carries there, and he's being drafted in the 11th, 12th round. He's another guy you can kind of steal late, because I think he'll get a lot of the carries in Detroit, even though Gibbs is their big touted rookie they drafted in the first round. I get it.
Well, look, if he just takes DeAndre Swift's job, like, DeAndre Swift caught 70 plus balls every year. So that alone will get Jahmyr Gibbs fantasy relevance and make him a decent RB2 or RB3.
Houston, Uncle Ted, of course, Houston's going to be better. They have CJ Stroud. It couldn't be worse. It can't be worse. and my favorite thing that happened last year with Houston, I love this, is Lovie Smith, I believe, was the coach. Yeah. And all he had to do was like lose the last game to get the first pick. Yeah. And he won it just to do like a little like FU to the Houston management, because he knew that he was going to be fired right after the game anyway. And he won the game, and then Houston lost the first pick.
Yeah. And Houston, look, I think John Mechie is an interesting player. He missed last year because of his cancer diagnosis, but this guy was a producer as a wide receiver at Alabama. He came out as a second-round pick.
Love
He's
him.
coming back. Nico
Fast.
Hollins. Nico Hollins was sneaky productive but the problem was quarterback play. So if CJ Stroud can get the ball to them, they're certain. And didn't they take Dalton Schultz? Don't they have?
They have a good memory. They have Dalton Schultz at tight end. They signed him to it. It was like a weird deal too. It was like $5 or $6 million for 1 year contract. It was like I just didn't understand why they signed Dalton Schultz for that kind of money, but they did. I think it's more money. But it was a 1 year deal for Dalton Schultz, which is, again, he's a really good receiving tight end. I think it's a good sign, but it's just odd that Houston did it. I just didn't understand it.
Yeah, I mean,
and Houston, the funny thing is Houston's playing Tennessee in Tennessee this year, right? So Tennessee said to Houston, "We're going to wear the old Houston Oilers jerseys," and Houston's all pissed off about it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I mean, so that kind of stuff I think is fun. But Bijan Robinson, Rookie of the Year, Casey. Do you think he'll get the nod as Rookie of the Year?
Offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah. I think it's hard to figure anybody else would be above him. I mean, he's routinely ranked as a top 5 running back already.
He's already in the first round in fantasy football.
I think if Bryce Young can make Carolina good in that NFC South and get them into the playoffs, he might have a case for it. But unless one of these wide receivers, because, San Diego, between Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, one of them is going to miss every game. And so if Quentin Richardson
Quentin Johnston.
Oh, Quentin Johnston. Yeah.
Johnston.
Quentin
TCU,
Richardson
right?
was a basketball player. He could certainly do something there, but it's got, I mean, the overall, the odds on favorite, the betting favorite has to be Bijan.
I mean, if he stays healthy, I mean, people are talking about him leading the league in rushing. I mean, that's what they're talking about.
Giving, that's what they're talking about him the same way they talked about Saquon when Saquon first came into the league.
Yeah, I mean, they're already putting him in the Hall of Fame.
What he did in his rookie year was epic. So
it was great. It was great. I mean, Barkley signed with, congratulations on the Giants and Barkley signing. I really thought he was going to sit out. I really did.
What do you think? Well, speaking of that stuff, tell me your opinions about Jonathan Taylor and how this affects his draft status. All this crazy stuff.
It's his meeting with the owner, with Irsay,
Irsay. I am not a fan of Irsay.
I mean, he had a meeting with him, and I don't think it went well, because after the meeting, he said he wanted to be traded. And again, Jonathan Taylor's 24 years old. He's in the peak of his career. He's at the peak right now. 24 is a great age to be a running back. And we all know the Colts are horrible. I mean, the Colts, I think, would lose to college teams. They're that bad. Horrible team. And I mean, they're not even the best team in Indiana. I think University of Indiana can beat the Colts. In all seriousness, they're a horrible team. And just stink. But I think that Jonathan Taylor, but now he's kind of backtracking a little bit. So I know he's going to play, but I just don't understand how south that meeting could go, because he came out of the meeting and he demanded to be traded. Basically, it was like crazy.
I think he probably went in and said, I'm the best player on this team. I should be paid like the best player on this team. And they said, no, we're going to pay you what running backs make.
Yeah. And crazy thing is, the average for the running backs, I believe, is less than kickers. I mean, kickers make more money per average than running backs.
And running backs last like 3 years in the NFL on average. So.
3 years, and they're according to all the NFL scouts, they're a dime a dozen. So why pay him money? I feel bad for him, because they get the most abuse. But oh well.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how that goes in the next bargaining with regards to running back salaries, because they don't have a lot of leverage. If all of a sudden somebody gets hurt and you put in, what was it for Jacksonville a few years ago, when undrafted James Robinson comes in and suddenly he's a stud for the year.
Yeah, I picked him up on waivers. I remember that year. I picked him up. I was golden.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the smart ones, like Nick Chubb signed a huge deal a couple years ago, like a 5-year deal, and genius. I mean, it was a huge deal. He was like, I can't believe he should have waited. I don't know why. I don't know why he took that kind of money. He could have got more money with a different team. And I was like, no, take the money and run, because these owners are not playing these running backs what they deserve. I mean, they're really not. And like Barkley, like sat out, and you know what he ended up making? I mean, he made the big deal. He sat out like a couple days of practice. And compared to the tag, which they had him at, it was like an $800,000 difference he made.
Yeah.
All that commotion for $800,000. It's like, why? It's just a waste of time.
I'm curious to see how Javonte Williams comes back from his injury.
Well, they said it today. I saw it today when the coach said it too. It's like he'll play in the preseason and he's all systems go. And when this guy's healthy, Casey, we talked about it in our fantasy.
He's special.
I mean, this guy is the real deal. I mean,
we used to be so annoyed that they would split carries with Melvin Gordon with him.
I don't even know. I think Melvin Gordon is working at the gas station now. I don't even know where the guy's at. I have no idea if he's even in camps. I have to look that one up. But
I'll tell you right now.
But he's made a lot of money. I'm joking, Melvin. You actually, I'm sure that you're very well.
He's on the Ravens now, which I guess isn't a bad landing spot for him because J.K. Dobbins isn't even in camp yet.
That's another one I like this year too. When J.K. Dobbins is healthy, he's a top 10 running back, and if he keeps dropping in these drafts, make sure you guys draft him because he'll be worth a lot. What do you think about Madison for Minnesota? Because now Cook is gone. He was waived, and he can't get a job. He was like he went to the New York Jets to meet, and the Jets basically said, we don't like this whole tour you're doing with all these other teams, so we're not going to sign you. That's the explanation they gave. But what do you think Madison's going to be? I think the guy's not that good. I don't think he's good. I think he's very overrated. I'm not a big fan of this guy. I mean, he doesn't really have per carry per yards per carry is very low. And he's not that game breaking guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I actually like Dwayne McBride, who's kind of nobody even knows who he is, but he's a kind of a rookie.
He is a rookie.
He's an undrafted rookie. I think he's at a UAB, University of Alabama, Birmingham or something. He was really good there. I don't have a lot of faith in Alexander Madison. Certainly you have to draft him higher because he doesn't have anybody in his way to get the most carries in Minnesota, and Kirk Cousins isn't exactly a mobile quarterback. So it's not like he's going to lose stuff to Kirk Cousins on the ground, but I don't have a lot of faith. I mean, they're going to chuck it to Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinsmith all over the place. And who wouldn't? They're going to be three really good players. But Dwayne McBride, I think, could end up taking some thunder from him if things don't go well early.
Did you watch that show on Netflix called Quarterback? Did you watch it?
No, my wife. Ironically, I haven't watched it. My wife is watching it and loves it, which is weird because she doesn't.
I mean, you don't have to be a football fan to like it. And my wife watched it too. We both liked it. If you don't know what it is, it's on Netflix. It's like one of the most watched shows on Netflix. And they followed like the life of three quarterbacks: Patrick Mahomes, Dr. Dan Ratton. No, I'm just kidding. Patrick Mahomes. Mariota of the Atlanta Falcons,
formerly
the Eagles. I was with the Eagles, and also one of my favorite guys, Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins comes away looking like royalty. I mean, they make him look so good with his family, and he's just. I didn't really know much about him. I know he went to Michigan State. I know that he had kids and all that stuff, but he's such a great guy. I mean, that's what Mariota. He's likable, and Mahomes, his wife's kind of silly, but again, he comes across pretty well. I mean, all these guys come across great, but they really go behind the scenes. It's something that if you're a big football fan, you don't have to be a football fan, but if you like football and you learn a lot about these personalities, like watching the show. It was really good.
So you are for those of you who have never paid attention, a Cincinnati sports fan, which means your Reds are a playoff team. Congratulations right now. But the Bengals are one of the best. I mean, right now is a good time to be a Cincinnati sports fan. But my question for you is, given that Joe Mixon is, I don't know if he's in the twilight, but I don't think he's
He took a
very,
pay cut. He took a pay cut to stay on the team.
yeah.
So he wants to be a Bengal. And,
But what are your thoughts on Chase Brown?
Chase Brown.
The
Colorado,
rookie.
the rookie from Colorado. I like Chris Evans better. I wish they gave the guy the ball. I mean, Brown is a rookie. I saw him play in the Pac-12, and it's fine. But I really like Evans as the backup. But again, the Bengals don't really rely on the running game like they do in the passing game. We're not going to win games with our running game. We never will. I mean, Mixon will have a game where he has like 4 touchdowns, but then he'll be quiet for the rest of the season. So again, like you say, it's like, if you want to sign some of these guys, like Kareem Hunt's available, you can sign him. Zeke Elliott's available, go ahead and sign him. Leonard Fournette's available, go ahead and sign him. There's a lot of good running backs out there that if you need somebody, you can get these guys, and they're not going to be asking for huge money either. So the running back position to me, I don't really worry about it if you're a football team. I think there's a lot of guys out there that can play that position. Especially right now.
What are your tell me what you think? How worried are you about Derrick Henry?
That's another one. He's dropping like a rock in these drafts, and I love Derrick Henry. I know he's 29 years old. I know age has caught up with him a little bit. I get it, but his volume he gets as a running back, and the amount of carries he gets, and the amount of opportunities he gets scoring touchdowns, it's just, if you can grab him, in all seriousness, if you grab him in the 3rd or 4th round, and like he could be available in most leagues, grab him.
Yeah, I worry about him breaking down physically, because it seems
I said that last year, and but he's he carries guys on his back to score touchdowns. I mean, this guy's it's a monster. And
he looks like those kids who grew a lot faster than everybody else when they're playing like pee-wee football or pony football, and all these like normal size 7-year-olds or 10-year-olds are trying to tackle this man of a.
But I like Derrick Henry a lot this year, and I think you can get a good bargain with him in some of these drafts. So he's another one you should put on your list, and if he's available 3rd or 4th round, make sure you grab him.
Okay, do it. All right, so we got a couple minutes left. What? Give me your top 5. Give me anybody outside of Travis Kelce that you like at tight end.
So Freiermuth, did I say it right?
Yeah, Freiermuth.
When he was healthy, he was a top 5 tight end when he's healthy. I think he's going to be a big year this year in Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh's going to have a bounce back year. I think they improved the offensive line. I see him having a really good year there. Mark Andrews was hurt a lot last year. Seeing with Kittle, they could bounce back. I think the one that's could be like the big bounce back that everybody gave up last year is Kyle Pitts in Atlanta. I think Atlanta has all these new weapons now. They'll be looking at Robinson. They look at London, and I think Pitts can come back and have a pretty good year. So, I mean, I like him a lot. And, in the other tight end, but there's a huge drop off at tight ends. I mean,
well, I think if he stays healthy, the only 2 who have a chance to come anywhere near Kelce level production are Kittle. And I think if Darren Waller stays healthy, he's going to
ask you about Darren Waller.
He's going to be a target monster in New York.
Has he stayed healthy?
Not in a while.
Has he ever stayed healthy?
I read and then we'll go after this. I read an interesting article about him. The reason he doesn't come back from injuries quickly or as quickly as other people is because he's a recovering addict. He can't take narcotic medication.
Can't take pain pills. I get it.
He can't take the pain pills. So he's stuck with whatever. He has to feel well enough to play with Tylenol and Advil. And it's an interesting thing I hadn't thought of before.
I don't know that either. That's a good thing.
And so I think it's cool that he's, willing to take his sobriety that significantly or seriously, because you have to. But that's kind of the twist there for one of the reasons he doesn't come back as quickly as other people, because he has to wait till the pain subsides to start conditioning again, as opposed to doing both because he can take medications that can numb him better.
I mean, there's TJ Hawkinson in Minnesota who I
Yep.
like. I also like Irv Smith for the Bengals. We talked about him before, and
Yeah.
he used to be in New Orleans. I think he'll have a good season.
I mean, what do you I mean, I know I've talked about this before with Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, going from Dallas to San Diego. Not San Diego. Wow. Look what I just did there.
Chargers. Just say
LA
Chargers. It's easy.
And remember, Dalton Schultz was a top 5 or 6. Do you think he can do that with Gerald Everett there in?
Gerald Everett last year had a good season. I mean, every time I turn the TV on, I would see, I think he's like number 2 or number 4. He's a low number. I would see him getting receptions. I mean, he had a good season with Herbert. And yes, I have him in the top 10. If I can, late in the draft, if I can grab him as my backup tight end, I would do it in a second.
I think he's a great second tight end. There's also Okonkwo. What's the kid's name in Tennessee?
I can't say it. It's African. It's an African last name.
I think he's somebody who you can get outside of those top 7 or 8 tight ends that could end up playing well enough.
Yeah, I mean, So I mean, tight end position again after Kelsey, everybody else is down here. Yeah, I mean, if you can draft Kelsey in the 5 or 6 pick, do it. Just trust me. I mean, he'll have 100 yards, a touchdown, and then on Monday night when everybody's watching, he'll have like 3 touchdowns and 150 yards. I mean, that's what he does. And I don't care about his age. Don't even listen to people about his age. It's not for debate.
All right, Ross. Well, thank you for showing your vast fantasy football knowledge. I was impressed with you don't know names. You get names wrong all the time, but you know where they went to college, their age.
I do. I'm an expert when it comes. Yep.
You know the actual important stuff. The pronunciation of the name doesn't matter.
No, the names, especially I mix up first names all the time.
Thank you for sharing the knowledge. It's nice to talk football with you again. We get to talk football now.
I love football.
How cool is that?
I love football.
All right,
and the Mets lost to Kansas City today, 9-2. Casey.
Scherzer didn't pitch well though. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning. I think
I saw that. And anytime a pitcher joins a new team, I think there's an adjustment process, but that's fine. But the Mets were swept by the Kansas City Royals, which is unbelievable. I'll let you go. I know you're not a Met fan, you're a Yankee guy, I get it. But I just want to let you know.
No, it's still funny. All right, man. Well, Hall of Fame game tonight.
Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be the most exciting football ever. It's going to be unbelievable.
You won't recognize a lot of people, but at least it means football starting again.
You'll see Watson wearing his street clothes. It's going to be great.
Also, thanks everybody for tuning in. We love the feedback. We love the questions. Feel free to contact us between shows too on these videos. We try to respond to everything. Let us know if you have draft questions. We're going to talk more and more football every day going forward. So we will see you next week. Ross, have a great weekend.